Hi, I'm Kelly. I'm a traditionally and independently published author of over 30 books, and welcome to my channel. Okay, so I put a poll on my Instagram about what topic you wanted to hear about this week, and the two choices were dealing with fear and how to write 10,000 words in one day. And it was a pretty close poll, actually. But how to deal with fear actually won. So that's what we're talking about today, is dealing with fear. Now, I'm definitely no expert in ways to deal with things. I know what works for me sometimes, but hopefully maybe we can at least talk, at least in the comments, and get some different ideas for each other on ways to deal with fear. And I know I write horror books, but this is not that kind of fear. It's not a monster, but I guess it could be a monster. It's like one of those internal monsters, internal fear. And it's the fear of different things in writing, like the fear of publishing a book, the fear of writing a word. I had a lady tell me that she didn't write a word. She had these book ideas, but she'd never written them because she was afraid she wouldn't sell a book. So the fear of not being able to sell scared her, and she didn't write. She didn't see what she could do because she was scared of what might happen. And I think that happens a lot with fear and anxiety, and when our minds just go crazy about what might happen. And it's always the worst case scenario. It's never the what might happen. Oh, I might win $1 million. It's, oh, this terrible thing might happen. And that's what we focus on. That's what, I don't know why. I'm not a psychology major, and I know there's probably a reason why we focus on like the worst that can happen. And I know some people are afraid. They write books and they edit them and edit them and edit them and edit them and edit them because they're afraid to put them out in the world. And that's sad. I mean, I understand it. It's just sad for the book, and it's sad for the person that the fear is what drives decisions. And I understand that because this is what made me think of this topic. This weekend I was at a book convention. It was the Imaginarium convention in Louisville, Kentucky. And I drove up there on Friday night, sorry. And we got there about 12 o'clock their time at night. We checked in. I'd worked all day the day before, then we drove up there. And we checked in our hotel room. The next day I had to moderate, I got to moderate. I had the honor of moderate, which really was an honor. I'm very excited that they chose me to moderate. I love moderating panels. In theory, I love moderating panels. I had to moderate a panel at 9 in the morning on a Saturday, and that was 8 my time because I live in the Eastern time zone, Central time zone, sorry. See, that's one of my fears, is messing up when I talk, and it messes with my words a lot because my brain's like, don't mess up, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, okay, so I ran a how to self-publish panel, which was awesome. We had a really good time. I ran a supernatural panel after that, which was really awesome. We had a really good time, but I guess I had like peopled too much. And then I went to some other panels to just, kind of sit there, and I took notes, and they were really good panels, and I had an amazing time. About 4 o'clock was when the panels were over, and they were getting ready for the award show. And my sister and I were sitting there, and we had a choice. I had a choice. She would have done whatever I wanted to do. I could either go to the award show, sit there with everybody and watch people do things, and maybe strike up a conversation with maybe network, maybe do things you're supposed to do as an author, and wait for the awards ceremony. I wasn't nominated for anything, but I like going to the award shows. And I leaned over and I kind of patted my sister. I said, "Are you ready to go back to the hotel room?" She was like, "Yeah, if you want to." So we went back to the hotel room. That was about 5, and I went to bed. We turned on Ghost Adventures, and I slept until 8 o'clock the next morning. Basically, I mean, one, it was really nice to sleep, but my anxiety, my whatever took over, and I just could not people anymore, and I felt really bad. And then I had a panel the next morning at 9 o'clock on Sunday, and I was like, I'm not going. They won't miss me. I'm not going. And I wasn't moderating it. I was on it, and I was like, we're just gonna go home. We're just gonna pack up and go home. And I had that thought until 8:30, and finally about 8:30, I rolled out of bed, and I was like, no, I'm gonna do it. So I'm like, it can be terrible, but it will only be terrible for like the next hour. But when I got there, usually in my experience, when I am nervous about something or I'm afraid of something and I actually do it, it ends up being okay. Like, I had a really good time at that panel. It was fun. A lot of people showed up. It was on character flaws versus Mary Sue's. It was a really fun panel. And if I had let that fear control me or, win, I wouldn't have got to do it. And I wouldn't have had that great experience and that great time and met such wonderful people. And it made me think on the drive home what I missed out on by not going to the award show, and who I could have met and who I could have networked with. Like, the guy that wrote Final Destination was there, y'all. I know. And I saw him like in passing, but I never got to talk to him. And I might have got to if I'm just not went to the award show. Sometimes, though, it's good to listen to your, I guess, intuition that maybe you shouldn't do things, or maybe, I guess you have to figure out, is it fear telling you to do something or not to do something? Or is it something else trying to tell you not to do something? I don't know if I have any advice because I'm going through it too, but I know some things that help me are I have to talk myself into things a lot. I worry about things a lot. I worry way more than I should, and I don't like that I do that. Every release day, I worry. Every sale, I worry. Every post, I worry. Everything. And basically, I don't want to get too deep. So we won't get too deep. But some things that I try to do is I think, okay, if I didn't have anxiety and I didn't have this fear, would I still do it? Would I still do this thing? Or do I think I would do this thing? And part of me is really stubborn, and I don't want the fear to win. So even though sometimes it tries really hard, and sometimes it does win, like I didn't go to the award show, but I did win the other night, and that's okay. You can't win every battle, and that's fine as long as it's not a permanent end. Then it's okay. You have to give yourself grace, and you have to forgive yourself. And sometimes I think that's really hard to do. I hope this wasn't depressing. I hope you got something out of it. Okay, now this is where I want to talk to you, because we all know I'm not an expert on this. I have a feeling that since most of you voted for, you wanted, well, like I said, it wasn't 50-50, but it was like 56, 40, whatever that is, 44, whatever the math is. So it was kind of, okay. If you deal with fear of writing a first word, of going to a convention, of buying a table at a convention, of being on a panel, of putting out a book, of whatever it is that's holding you back, leave it in the comments so we can discuss it. And if you have the fear, if you have had the fear of putting out a book, of writing a word, of doing NaNoWriMo, of doing whatever, put what you did to overcome it in the comments. And of course, we know what works for one person is not going to work for another person. We know that. We're all different. And I know that what works for me sometimes does not work another time. It just happens. It's just, we're human. And like that famous Sherlock quote, when he tells Sherlock tells John, sometimes we just have to accept that we're just human. And John goes, even you, and Sherlock goes, even you. So we have to give ourselves some leeway. But if you have dealt with any kind of fear, and like if you worried about writing your first word, but you did, and now you have a book or 2 books or 3 books out in the world, give some suggestions in the comments about what you did to overcome that fear, and it might help somebody else. And if you have a fear and you want to write a book so bad, but you're afraid to start, or you're afraid to publish, or you're afraid you don't want to look like you want to put a book out, but you don't want to look not successful if you don't hit New York Times. Whatever your fear is very valid. Leave it in the comments and we can talk about that too. I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you for voting in the poll. There will probably be another poll up next week, maybe, to see what you want to talk about next week. Thank you so much for subscribing to the channel, for being here, for leaving comments. It means the world to me. Bye.